Woodworking is full of tools and tool accessories that you think you need, but you don't need at all. I saw 2 accessories on a wood planer the other day that you do not need as a beginner and do not need to waste your money on. If you're new to this channel, my name is Jeremiah. I've spent over 30 years in workshops of all kinds, from woodworking to aerospace, and I'll be your guide to the workshop jungle. So let's get into it. The other day I ran across some videos that were introducing a new planer that just came out. It came out from a place called Oliver Machinery, I believe, and it's the Oliver 155, which is a 15-inch wide planer, and it has 2 features that are driving up the price. Really a third one, I'll get to that one in the end. But they're driving up the price and making it a very expensive tool that beginners think they need. And I think this because I saw some of the comments on, and one of them was a wife that was shopping for tools for her husband to start woodworking with, and it was about this Oliver machine. It's a great machine. It looks like a superb machine. But it's overkill for the beginner just buying their first planer. And it has 2 features that are really unnecessary. The first one was a DRRO, or a digital readout. And that is not really a necessity on a planer. I'm sure I'll get some kickback on that. And if you have different thoughts, drop them down in the comments below. We'll start a discussion. But you usually have some sort of a scale on the side of a planer anyways that's adjustable and can't get knocked out, doesn't need batteries, and doesn't need a high-dollar replacement if it goes bad. A DRRO is like a pair of calipers on a machine. And I know that because I've seen them in the machining world. They're very common in machining. And they're very useful in machining. But the thing about them in machining is you may use them to get your machine part cut, just like your planer, the thickness. It tells you the thickness of what you're planing. But when you're machining, you don't use that as your final inspection, and you really shouldn't use that as your final inspection on your wood planer. You pull out your tape measure or a pair of calipers and you measure it to make sure, because you may have a knife slip or any other problems that would cause the digital readout to be wrong. So you're not going to rely on that, and you don't want to rely on that. So you just need, all you really need for a beginner planer or a professional, because it's on mine, and I've used mine for over 20 years, is just a little adjustable measurement thing that tells you about what you're cutting. Take a test cut and measure it with a pair of calipers or a tape measure afterwards. The second thing that you don't need as a beginner, and I'm starting to see them everywhere, I am sure they're great, just like the DRRO. I'm sure it's very handy, but you don't get lulled into thinking that you need it to begin woodworking, or as an intermediate or a professional woodworker. And that is the helical cutters with the indexable carbide cutters. I don't know, I've never used one, so I'm just going off of what I know. I know them carbide cutters from machining, and they're great, and they're sharper, and they stay sharper longer than high-speed steel. and they may cut wood like butter. But the thing about it is you can get just as good of a finish from steel knives that are properly sharp. And I say that because I just sharpened mine after like 15 years. So they're easy to sharpen, by the way. All you need is a little jig and sandpaper and you can sharpen them. But you don't need the indexable carbide cutters, because if you have a little bit of planer mark, which you won't, I mean, mine puts very little on. If you have a little bit of planer mark, 90% of the time, you're going to sand that project down and you're going to sand those marks out. So any benefit that those helical cutters give you on the finish, you're going to be sanding them out. And what these accessories do is drive up the price on that Oliver or any planer. The helical cutters can be, I've seen them as much as $800 for the head, plus buying the carbide cutters because you can't resharpen them. And those are, what I saw was like over 60 bucks for a set of 10. So if you really wipe out all your cutters, you're out a bit. But you don't need them. And don't get lulled into thinking you need them, because it's driving the prices up on these machinery pieces quite a bit. This Oliver is over $1,800. And granted, it has a little bit of extra cutting capacity, which I'll get to in a second, but it's not worth the $1,800. Mine is a 13-inch planer from Jet that is $1,600 now. I bought it for a lot less a long time ago. And it has the added extra benefit of being a molding cutter, so you can put in special molding knives and cut out your own trim. And that's great. And it's for $1,600. It also has the anti-kickback knives, and it feeds really good. I'll put a link down in the description for it. And if you want to spend the $1,800 on the benchtop Oliver, I would go ahead and buy the Jet planer molder, which is freestanding. You don't need it's not a benchtop. So it's a very heavy duty unit, and it's a superb unit, and has served me fine for over 20 years or so. The third thing that I mentioned is the extra cutting capacity. I have never felt the need that I needed a 15-inch cutting capacity. I have always been good with the 13-inch cutting capacity of mine. And for a beginner, that is plenty. So that little DEWALT that you always see, I'll put a link down in the description, is a superb beginner planer. I've used it on job sites. It milled through teak like it was nothing, except it wore out the blades, because teak is very hard on blades. But very good planer, and would make an excellent planer for any beginner or intermediate out there. I'll put it in the description. So I just wanted to make this video to kind of dispel some things that you think you might need as a beginner that you don't need at all. You don't need a DRRO on your planer. It may be handy, but you don't need it. And you don't need a helical cutter, and you really don't need that extra 15-inch cutting capacity. Save the money. Buy a machine that can do extra like mine, and still save the money from that Oliver. I'm sure it's a great piece, but man, when you're building out your shop, you want to save money when you can. And don't buy some of these accessories that you don't need at all. So if you like this video, please like it. And I'll put a link in the description for another video about how a planer is one of my favorite accessories or woodworking machines in the shop and what it can do for you. I'll put it in the description, and we'll see you in the next video. Thank you for watching.